So,
all right, so tell me what you've experienced at these pleasant diversity training sessions. What have you experienced?
I've experienced a neutral blend, trying not to associate, going up to someone who might be African American and saying, "Hey, did you see the basketball game last night?" Adapting to stereotypes.
Wait, you mean they're telling people not to ask an African American about a basketball game? You don't see the absurdity of that teaching?
Well, what they're trying to show you is that it could be considered discriminatory by doing.
It's insanity. And you're buying it? That's not insane?
No. It's a neutral approach to it. It's not something that I'm feeling intimidated that I have.
But what do you mean by a neutral approach? They're telling you not to ask an African American about a basketball game because you may offend him?
That's correct, especially if you don't know the person, then he might not.
I see. So what should you ask your African American cohort at work? What are you allowed to ask him?
How about anything except for applying a stereotype?
And what do they tell you to do about Jews who wear a yarmulke? Is there some special code word you're not allowed to use?
No, I haven't.
Are you not allowed to ask him about you can't go up to a Jew with a yarmulke and ask him how the corned beef is?
No, I don't know if I've heard.
Oh, they haven't gotten around to that. So how was the corned beef sandwich, AB? You can't. That's not allowed. What are you kidding me? Haven't you ever heard of free speech? What do you mean you can't ask a black man about basketball? Why not?
Well, because I guess again you're applauding the stereotype.
Are you crazy?
It's serious, absolutely. I mean, you have.
So you buy into this crap? You actually think that's a reasonable thing to teach people what not to say?
Well, again, it's an example of how if it goes the other way around, it could.
Or let's take it the other way around. What are black people told not to say to white people?
I don't know. I don't know what they're.
No, because they're not taught. No, they're not taught anything. Isn't that right? What are gays and lesbians taught not to say to straight Christians? How about nothing? How about they're not taught anything? Don't you understand that the inherent bias is in who is being told what not to say? Don't you see that?
Well,
in other words, if they're not lecturing blacks on what not to say to whites and not lecturing gays on what not to say to Christians for fear of offending them, don't you see the inherent bias in that?
Well, again...
Of course you don't, because you're a brainwashed dolt. You're the perfect idiot. You're the perfect candidate for brainwashing because your brain was washed before you were born. There's no Duramater there between the ears. This is an example. This is America today. But at least the man called. I have to give him credit for that. Nothing is new under the sun. I read Animal Farm. I read it when I was 18 years old. Right now you're living through Animal Farm. Yeah, I used to hear the joke that the inmates are running the asylum. Well, now you have bullying inmates running the asylum. That's the difference. Bullying inmates running the asylum. WBAP, Tamara, Dallas, Texas. Thanks for calling. You're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind, Tamara?
At my employer, they made a big deal about the Indiana RFPA, and the president of the company puts out the company bulletin of, we've leaned in on the governor, and we've made...
I'm not following you, ma'am. I'm sorry I lost you. It's because I'm not fast enough. Please tell me what you are referring to.
Okay, Indiana a couple months ago had the Religious Freedom Protection Act that would have extended protection to people who said, I don't want to make a gay wedding cake because it is a violation of...
Okay, and what happened? What happened with that?
The head of the company published a letter in our company bulletin and said, we have leaned in on the governor of the state and threatened to withdraw our business if they do this because it's a violation of our principles. And I was talking to some other people and went, there's no way they're going to relocate a facility with thousands of people and millions of dollars of equipment.
I'm not, Tamara, I'm really not following you. I'm not understanding you. You're saying people are not allowed to talk about gays bullying pizzerias and bakers? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you should be able to say, I don't want to make the wedding cake. I don't want to participate in the business. Well, the company, has this formal stance. We're going to stand up for these values. And a number of people brought up, hey, this is not a violation of rights, and if you want to talk about hypocrisy, we do business in Saudi Arabia. Why are you talking about taking our business out of...
That's right. Right, and why don't you talk about the real homophobia of throwing gays off roofs in Iraq? Why don't you talk about the real atrocities against humanity that ISIS is committing while Obama plays golf, kidnapping 8-year-old girls and raping them and selling them into slavery? That's a real crime against humanity.
And I'm fully aware of that. And when one of the managers who brought up the hypocrisy of threatening to take business out of Indiana and doing business with Saudi Arabia and signing new contracts with them, he told me he's concerned about getting demoted because he publicly criticize the president of the company.
That's right. So there we go. So that's bullying. The corporations have all caved into these bullies. I know that. They'd rather do whatever's required the minute the bullies show up. And this started with Al Sharpton shaking companies down, in my opinion. Jesse Jackson was the original bully, threatening boycotts unless they caved in and threw him a grant or threw him a contract. And it's now spiraled out of control. We have an avalanche of bullying in the United States of America, and it has to come to an end today, right now, right here. Michael Savage, Countdown to Mecca is the novel. Sending you a free copy, 855-407-282. I'm telling you, the individuals listening to the show, here's what I'm saying to you. You know, you're listening to me enraged over this, and you know I'm right. And you feel that you're being somehow relieved of some of the burden of fighting yourself because I'm doing it for you. That's good. That's what I'm paid to do. But you see, the work really begins when this show ends. The work begins the next time you encounter one of these little tyrants. The work begins when you say, should I really say anything, or should I just walk the other way and mind my business? That's where the work begins. You have to stand up and be counted. Even if it's the smallest issue, you must not cave into the bullies. There are ways to do it politely. If they're not polite, escalate it. If they escalate it, escalate it. You don't have to take it. You live in a free country. If they feel free to put you down, if they feel free to put you down as a Christian or as anything else, you have every right to stand up and say, I am offended by that, and I'm not going to take it, and I think you're a little bully, and I want you out of my face. Get the hell out of my face, bully. Now, what would happen if 10 million people said, get the hell out of my face, bully? Imagine in America, I want you to imagine 10 or 20 million Americans, the next time they're confronted by one of these bullies, well, do it politely, and if they don't get out of your way and they keep it up, say, get out of my face, bully. What would happen if 20 million of us did that? I want you to visualize that, all you 1970s visualizers, all you good liberals who have poisoned America with your liberalism. Visualize that as I take a break.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. The only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUYCOIN. Michael Savage here. I've hoped over the last day or two to change the paradigm on the bullies that are pushing us all around in this country. There are a very, very tiny minority of individuals who are now ruling America, from the universities to the corporations. Wherever you turn, there they are, telling you what to think, what to say, what not to say. And as a result, the nation has turned into a nation of cowards. And I'm telling you that we, the people, have the power to stand up to these bullies. And we're going to do it. And I'm going to continue to talk about how to fight back against these bullies. In no matter what form they come in, no matter what shape they come in, you can stand up to them. We live in a free country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. That doesn't give these bullies the power to tell you what to think and what to say. You have the power to think and what you say, what you want. Now, there are powers you have that you may not even know about. Legal powers, for sure. You actually have the legal power to speak your mind. Now, you're afraid that you'll be retaliated against, as was that woman in the DHS who lost her job and had her gun taken away from her. We know how fascistic the DHS has become. We know that it is the SS, or the SA rather, of Barack Obama. We understand what he's done here. It's not a DHS to protect us. It's a DHS to protect the government from us, from we the people. That doesn't mean that everyone in the DHS is a goose stepper. It means that the management is who I am talking about. We understand who they are. We understand why they've been put there. We understand that they do the bidding of the sorority that surrounds Obama, the Praetorian Guard, the sorority girls who protect him, that they're using every agency in the government to intimidate the people and protect the president, who everyone can see through. We understand that. Let's take a few callers here on the Sabbath. Oh, I have no more time. They're unbelievable. If you want to hold on the line, we'll do so in the next hour, about how bullies are lowering standards in the military, how bullies are lowering standards in the fire department, how bullies are lowering standards in the police department, how bullying are decimating academia, how bullies are destroying the corporate world. Yeah, you heard me. There are prices to be paid because of these communist bullies.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Ho, ho, ho. Welcome back to The Savage Nation. We're talking about standing up to the bullies in America. The bullies, whether they be the president or his left-wing minions in the universities, schools, corporations. Wherever you turn, you got the bullies telling you what you can say, what you can't say, how to think, how not to think. It is so un-American. And yet most of us have forgotten what it means to be an American. We've forgotten that one of the chief tenets of this country is the land of the free and the home of the brave, where free speech reigns. And yet this small cadre of fanatics have taken upon themselves to maintain free speech only for themselves. Well, I guess you haven't read Animal Farm. And I've asked you to call about your experiences with bullies and how they are lowering standards in police departments, fire departments, military, you name it. Everywhere you turn, standards are being lowered as a result of these bullies. I'd like to take some of these calls. We've been holding for quite a while. Let's begin on WJR in Detroit. Dave, welcome to the program. What's on your mind? What's your experience?
I work under contract at the biggest car company in the world, and I've interviewed for several full-time positions within the company, and I see myself not getting hired because I don't fit the profile of a minority or some other less, I don't know what you want to call it, LGBT or something like that, a profile, because I know that they're being filled with these jobs because the people who get the job that I interviewed for sit right next to me in one case.
Well, what company is this?
The biggest car company in the world.
The biggest car company in the world.
Yes. Okay,
I don't want you to spell it out because I don't want you to jeopardize. So, in other words, they have a mandate to hire minorities and others and to avoid the dreaded white male. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And every time they say, "Oh, you did a great job at your interview. You got a lot of experience. You just everything we need." And I never hear back. I call. They don't call me. I send email. Me. And then next day, an American Indian guy sitting next to me with no experience. He's an electrical engineer, great, but he's working at a car company on transmissions. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, of course it makes sense. If you want a communist revolution, you've got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. It doesn't matter whether the car company can still produce excellent cars. It doesn't matter if the military can still fire a shot straight. It doesn't matter if the police can actually stop the thugs. It doesn't matter if the fire people can still put out fires. What matters is that there's diversity. The important thing is that diversity reigns. You see, that's how it works after a revolution. Diversity becomes king. Diversity trumps... I said it best 25 years ago, before I was in radio, when I said, without quality, there can be no equality. I guess it fell on deaf ears. However, I still have a very large audience of people who understand that without quality, there can be no equality. So I guess that's a little too literate for some of these hires. Don't even try it on them. They wouldn't even understand what you're saying. They'd have to go to the diversity training book to see if you said something that was so un-PC that they can get you in trouble. 855-400-7282. Andrew, WABC, fire away. You're on the Savage Nation.
I stood up to a bully, Mayor Raz Baraka in Newark. You had an earlier caller speak of him. I was on his story. I'm a video journalist, and they had Jim Brown there. It was an anti-gang group of volunteers, and I was nervous. I was the only white guy, inner city, all black, mostly leftist Democrat. And I said during the Q&A, I said, I grew up right up the street from here in South Orange. There was black people all around me. We didn't need any anti-gang force. We didn't have guns. My friends didn't have guns. I said, why don't you try to lessen government dependency and get more followers in the homes? Then you won't need a gang task force. That's what I told him. And then he lied in his response, but I was so proud to stand up to him and do some good and try to do some good.
Yeah, but did they boo you and boo you anger there out of there?